I'm one of the head trainers at the NLP Centre of Excellence, and tonight's topic is overcoming limiting beliefs. The outcomes for tonight's seminar are creating an awareness of how these limiting beliefs have an impact on the quality of our life, how they impact our lives on a daily basis, and get in the way of what we truly want in our life. We're also going to look at a process, a very powerful process, a 9-step process to help you overcome any negative beliefs that you might have, or to help, if you're a coach, your clients overcome negative beliefs. In tonight's show, I'm going to show you and demonstrate how in 30 minutes you can help someone overcome a limiting belief. Yes, 30 minutes to help someone overcome a limiting belief. And you might think that's over the top. Certain beliefs people have had for many, many years, even a lifetime nearly. Yet think about it for one moment. How long does it take to have a limiting belief? How long does it take? It only takes one person to say one thing to you at a certain time in your life, and that can become a belief. It can become part of your reality. Think about it for one moment. Just think of a scenario. Let's say, for example, you had a job interview next week. The interview is at 10 o'clock in the morning. You set the alarm off for 7 o'clock in the morning to get ready, to focus, to have a coffee, and to drive to the actual place of the interview. And let's say it took an hour to get to the actual place you're going to have the interview at. If, for example, the alarm clock went off at 8 o'clock and you were running late, and then you spilled coffee all over your front shirt or your dress, and then you get in the car and there's a traffic jam that could take 2 or 3 hours to get from where you are to going to be, think about your thoughts on the day. What do you believe about that day? And that just goes to show it doesn't take a great amount for someone to become a belief. Let's say, for example, in an aeroplane, turbulence, your whole belief system around flying changes. Or you might be very young in life and someone who was close to you said to you, you know what, you're worthless, you're useless, you're ugly, and that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So it doesn't take a long time to create a limiting belief. Why should it take a long time to remove a limiting belief? We're going to look at a process tonight that can remove a limiting belief in a very short time. Now, in my experience, I've worked with many people over many, many years, so there's athletes in the world, some people in business, some of the business high flyers. I've worked with many people in a broad range of areas. I've always been amazed how, no matter how successful someone is in their chosen field, they all have things that they want to improve on. So it doesn't matter who you are out there, it's not unique to you. A limiting belief in an area of your life is not just yourself. Pretty much everyone I've worked with over many, many years has got limiting beliefs in their reality. Now, in my experience, I've worked with a broad range of people for many, many years, business people, high-risk offenders, I've worked with top sports people. One of the most important things about people achieving certain things in their life, whether they're going to become a top sports person, a business person, whether they're going to go to prison for many, many years, a lot of that comes down to their belief system, their identity, that we're going to touch on throughout tonight's seminar. How you define who you are will impact your behaviour, and what you believe about yourself will become your reality. But more about that as we go along. But let me give you a story before we begin, to give you an idea of how this process works. Let me give you a story. Many, many years ago I was working with this woman, and her goal was to get back into a relationship. She'd been out of a relationship for a long period of time, and she wanted to get back into a relationship. So she gave me a call to do a bit of coaching. I started doing some coaching with her, and over a period of time, I began to realise she had an interesting belief pattern. I said, what do you want? What is it that you want to achieve? She said, I want to go back into a relationship. I've been in a negative relationship for many, many years. I've come out of it. It's been a good few months now, and I'm ready to move on. I said, and what's stopping you? She says, well, I don't feel I'm worth being with someone. I don't feel that I'm worthy of being happy. And she talked a lot about, her self-worth. She talked about a lot what she felt she deserved. She talked a lot about her old story, what happened in her old relationship. And I'm not saying that it was good or bad, or I'm not saying what was right or wrong. I'm not taking sides. I'm a big believer in the future. Let's go forward in terms of where we want to go. Let's create a new story. And I said, okay, let's go forward. What do you want to happen? So I want to have a relationship. And I said, well, what are you doing about having a relationship? She goes, well, I've been on a few date sites, I've been on a few dates, but nothing really happened. Every time I sort of get close to someone, I push them away. I sabotage them because of my self-worth. And what was really interesting about this woman as well, I said to her, how often do you go on a dating sites? How often do you meet people? And she said, well, every now and again, I might meet someone for a friend, or I might, go on a dating site and go up to someone. But generally speaking, she said to me that generally speaking, she believed that all men were bastards. Which is pretty ironic, really. She might have a point, don't get me wrong. But that's a really interesting belief. Because think about it, if you want to be in a relationship and you believe that all men are bastards, or for men believe all women are whatever, then the chances of you going into a relationship are going to be far more minimal. Would you agree? I'm pretty sure. Just think about it for one moment. Has anyone ever knocked on your door to try and sell you, for example, you get their door-to-door sales, people try and sell you a vacuum cleaner, they don't believe in their product. If they don't believe in their product, do you believe in their product? Of course you don't. Think of that sort of salesperson who knocks on your door, bang, 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 you open the door and they sort of just slouch, would you like to buy one of these? What are your thoughts when you see that? Of course. So think about this woman in that situation. She believes all men are bastards. Added to that, every Tuesday night she would go to an evening and congregate with all her friends and have a men are bastards night, where all they would do is vent all their anger against men. Which is fair enough if that's how you want to live your life. But all I'm saying is that if what you want, and you're very clear about what you want, if the belief is not serving you, then it's your choice to change. I said to her, I challenge that belief, and I'm going to show you how I challenge that belief. And she did go on to go into a relationship, she did go on to improve her life, and she did get a whole new lease of life that she thanked me for later on. But I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I will demonstrate the process that we used with her to change that belief that wasn't serving you no more. If you want to keep the belief and you want to stay where you are, then that's fine. I'm not saying what you shouldn't do with your life. If you want to change it, it's possible. And one of the things I challenged her on, I said all men are bastards, based on what experience? She was basing her experience on one relationship. There's 3.5 billion men out there in the world that we live in. And I challenged her. I said, well, what about men that are close to you? Have you got any men that are close to you in your life? And she goes, yes, my brother and my dad. I said, are they bastards? She goes, no. How dare you say that? I said, well, hey. I'm not accusing anyone of doing anything. That proves my point. There's two guys that, aren't bastards, is there? At least, that we know. And I suppose, in the end in life, it's one of them. It's 6.5 to 1, isn't it, really? I think in the end, really, in life, your belief system, if it's not working for you, then you've got power to change it. But one thing to bear in mind is that your belief will shape your reality. What you believe to be true is your reality. Okay? Everyone that you've ever met in your life has shaped your life. So that's why I think it's really important that the proximity that you associate with is key for you getting yourself to where you want to be. If you hang around people who support your living belief, then you're not going to do yourself any favours. The key is to come out of that comfort zone. It's a little bit like I work with people who've got various medical conditions. I help people who've got things like ME and stuff like that. I'm not medically qualified to comment on the condition, yet I help them in terms of grading their activity and help them to have a more optimistic attitude and have some sort of greater recovery. And what I say to a lot of them in that situation is to come away from the groups that they've been in for a very long time that support the beliefs that they can't get better. And one of the reasons for doing that, if you continuously associate with people who don't believe they can get better, it's going to rub off on you. Find people who have got better. Find people who have improved. I think a lot when I work with people who've got alcohol issues. I tell them, rather than go to Alcoholics Anonymous, which is fine if that's what you want to do, see if you can associate with people who have got better from the situation they're in. Because one thing that you don't want to do is reinforce any negative belief. But we're going to talk more about that as we go along. In developmental psychology, they say the child is father to the man. And all that means is that when we're very young, when you're very, very young, from about birth to 7 years of age, our filters, what we call our filters, are very raw. We're very impressionable. If someone says to you now you're hopeless at what you do, you have got more experience to challenge that, or maybe even laugh it off. If you're young and someone says you're useless or you're hopeless, then you've got limited experience to challenge that, and it sinks into your mind and can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. And that's why the first 7 years of anyone's life are key. I don't deny that, but if you believe that the first 7 years and beyond that, your mind is carved in stone, if you believe that, then that is true. You have got the power to change, and it's been scientifically proven that the brain can rewire themselves. The brain can neurologically create new pathways. It's been scientifically proven you can build new belief patterns that can serve you in the world we live in. But let's think about an example before we move on. breaking new ground. It's not always as easy as that. Sometimes you struggle to find people who have broken that new ground. Sometimes you've got to break new ground yourself. And one of the ways to do that, I always say, is chunk it down to a manageable level. But we're going to talk more about that as we go along. But think about it. In 1954, you've probably heard of Roger Bannister. If you've heard of Roger Bannister before, okay, Roger Bannister was a mile runner. He used to run a mile. And the challenge that he took upon himself was to run under 4 minutes for a mile. It was said scientifically that it was impossible to run a mile under 4 minutes. If you did it, you would die. Now, Roger Bannister decided otherwise. And he set off and embarked on a training regime, and in 54 he broke the 4-minute mile. And the famous quote he says, after the mile, under 4 minutes, he said he collapsed and figured he was dead. Yet, he didn't die, he survived, and he actually broke that 4-minute mile. And what's really amazing is that beyond that, the amount of people who actually went away and broke the mile run was phenomenal. You had 20, 30 people in the next few months thereafter who broke it. And these days, a good college runner can break the 4-minute mile. And that just shows sometimes when new ground is broken, we believe we can do it. Okay, we've got a structure to work with, a new reality, we've got experiences. Yet sometimes it's not as easy as that because we don't have that experience. And we've got to build the experience. The key to achieving what you want in life, your goals, your outcomes, is managing your reality, managing your belief, breaking limiting beliefs. Are limiting beliefs holding you back? I ask you that question. And be honest with yourself. Take a moment to think about it. You haven't got a pen or a paper, I'll wait for you. Get a pen and paper if you can. I'm going to ask you that question again. Is a limiting belief holding you back, or are limiting beliefs holding you back? If the answer is yes, then the good news is I'm going to do a process shortly that can help you break those limiting beliefs and have the life that you deserve. If you haven't got beliefs that are holding you back at the moment, then as long as you're 6 feet above ground, I'm pretty sure at some point in your life you're going to have a limitation. And you're going to have to ask yourself the question, do I make it my reality or do I change? Okay, which is key. Is a limiting belief holding you back? I want you to do a brief exercise before we move on. A very brief exercise. Get your pen and get your paper. Take the time. You'll get out a list what you put in. If you passively listen to what I'm saying and you think, well, you know, some of this stuff makes a little bit of sense, some doesn't, whatever, and you take away what you want, you're going to go away, you might get some interesting information, yet it's not going to be any use to you in the long term. If you play ball and you get a pen and paper out, I'm sure that you'll get a lot out of the seminar. And I'm sure if you're a coach, you'll help people get a lot out of their life as well. But I want you to write down, during this exercise, write a belief that works for you. Because not all these beliefs, let's get this right by the way, not all beliefs are negative. Okay? Not all beliefs are negative. There are many beliefs in our life that serve us, that work for us. But write down one belief that serves you. I'll start off if you're struggling. I believe I can drive. A lot of people probably don't. And that serves me. Because I get up in the morning and I drive to where I've got to go and I don't ask any questions. It's a generalization. I generalize, I can drive. Okay? What's one belief that can serve you? What's one belief that you have that serves you? It could be that you're good at your job. It could be that you're good at sport. It could be that you're a good singer. Anything that you want, just write it down. It's really important that you write that down. And whilst you think about that and you ponder that and you write that down, on the flip side, write down a belief that does not serve you. Okay? What's a belief that does not serve you? And take a moment to think about that. Think about your life. It could be in work, it could be in the sport that you play, it could be as a coach, it could be writing a book, almost anything really. It could be going to a relationship. But write down a belief that doesn't serve you. And to start you off, when I was very young and I was going into the world of sport, I had a lot of negative beliefs about myself becoming a professional athlete, a professional sports person, and I consciously wrote my beliefs down and got rid of them by doing a similar process to the one that we're going to do tonight. Because you know what? I really believe you're entitled to live the life you want to live. You should not have to live a life less than you want. And I think the key is sometimes identifying certain beliefs that do not serve you. So write one down. Just one belief that does not serve you. Whatever that might be. Okay? And remember that you create your reality. What you believe to be true is your reality. And that might not make a lot of sense to you at this moment in time, but think about it. What exactly is a belief? And where do we get these beliefs from? Well, a lot of our beliefs come from very early on in life, like I mentioned earlier. When we're born, right through till about 7 years of age, we're very impressionable. To cut the jargon out, we are very impressionable at that age. We don't have a lot of experience to make judgments. And whatever we're told, especially from the people closest to us, we tend to believe, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Okay, as we go on in life, we still pick up these beliefs, and they tend to come from people who we associate with. Generally speaking, sometimes people are closest to us, but they can pretty much come from anyone, like I mentioned earlier, and life circumstances. Yet, in saying that, they do create your reality. Mind your BS system. Your belief system is your own. It's unique to yourself. It's your own reality. It's your own, we call it NLP, map of the world, really. When you think about it, it is your reality. Because you might believe one thing and someone something else, yet you alter your perspective and you change your whole reality. Ever had that situation before? Ever had a situation before where you believe one thing, and then someone said something to you differently, and you sort of altered your perspective, you changed your whole reality, and it gave you a new lease of life, whatever it could be. It might have been a test at school, it could have been a test at uni, it could have been your driving test, it could have been your belief about doing your job, it could have been anything really. It could have been a limiting belief that you had, it could have been a belief that you had that served you to a point, but it changed somewhere along the way. You sort of question that. Okay, so it is possible to change a belief. You've got to identify, and what's really important, what belief is holding you back. And in my experience, like I mentioned earlier, I don't think there's a soul on earth that doesn't have an area of their life where they have limiting beliefs. You could be the best person at business. I work with some of the best business people in the world, and they struggle with their weights. They don't believe they can get in good shape. They don't believe they can get fitter or healthier. I work with people who are very good sports people, and they struggle with relationships. They believe negative stuff about themselves. I work with people who, across many, many fields, across many, many areas, and we might be successful in one area of our life, but that doesn't mean we're successful in every other area of our life. The key is to identify what we want and how we can change that belief and decide how it's holding us back. And when you think about it, really, a belief is just a generalization, isn't it? Now, I remember many, many years ago at school, I had a teacher who passed one of her beliefs on to me. It was an English teacher at school. She said to me, I said to her during an English lesson, I was only very young, and during an English lesson I said, I'm writing this story, it was story time, writing stories for English. I said, you know, Miss, when I leave school, I want to write a book. I really want to write a book. And she turned around and said to me, with her hands on the hips, I'll never forget, pointing a finger at me, she goes, you write a book? You will never write any books. And I thought, gee, that's a little bit harsh at the time, and it's really amazing, 11, 12 years of age, for someone to say that. Yet, I suppose in her own mind, she was only doing the best she could with what she had. 3 best-selling books later, and over 10, 15 different resource manuals. I didn't do too bad when it comes to writing books. Yet, in saying that, the key and what's really important sometimes is to find that strength to see the person who's making the judgment on you. At a very early on in life, I reserved judgment. Yes, it had an impact, it was a nice thing for it to say, but very early on in life, I had the ability to challenge that and decide, you know what, I will be a master of my own destiny. And you know what, whatever you do, whether you go in business, sport, you want to go into a relationship, there'll always be the doubters. There will always be people who doubt you for one reason or the other. And then the trouble is with doubters, you've got to examine their life. You've got to think to yourself, where is the doubter coming from? What right has the doubter got to tell you what you can and can't do? And it's ironic really, because most people who doubt aren't where they want to be anyway. And they're probably not an expert in the field, they're telling you whether you can or you can't do that. So you know what, if someone doubts what you do, the best thing I say to them, that's fine, you've got your opinion, I've got my opinion. And the key thing is to take responsibility for your belief. Take full accountability for your belief. If you don't take responsibility for your belief, then it's going to be very difficult to change. I don't deny some of these beliefs have come from people, they've passed it on to us. I don't deny certain people have said certain things that aren't very helpful. Yes, that's the reality we live in. Some people do the best they can, what they know. I'm reading the Alan Sugar autobiography, and he talked about how his parents very early in life, in his autobiography, said to him, you know what, you're better off taking a job in the civil service as a job for life. That's their belief, isn't it? Yet in saying that, he had the audacity or strength of character to know he decided he was going to become an entrepreneur. And he didn't do too bad for himself, did he? And you know, when you read these books, and I love reading books, and Success Leaves Clues, I love to read people who sort of defied all the odds, from Einstein to Mozart to the Beatles to Edison to Walt Disney, they've all had their doubters. It doesn't matter who you are, people will always doubt what you can and can't do. And a lot of the time, it's their own reality. If they don't believe they can do it, they'll try and insinuate you can't do it sometimes. But you've got to find the strength to decide what you want and go for it and break through, because it's your life. It is your life, and you want to make sure, are you making the most of your life? Are you where you want to be in your life? Are there certain things you want to achieve? Do you want to be in a relationship? Do you want to write a book? Do you want to find a new job? Do you want to start a business? Are you being apprehensive about doing it because you don't believe? Now, there's a fine line between competence and belief and competence. I don't deny that. If you said to me, can you do brain surgery tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, I would say no. The reason why I would say no, because I haven't done any training in the area, it's not my area of expertise. So is that limiting belief? Maybe it's not, if you're the person that has to have the brain surgery too. So what I'm saying really, there is a fine line. But there is a fine line, isn't it, really, between confidence and competence as well. Because I've seen many people in my experience in life are very competent and fantastic what they do, yet in saying that, they just don't believe they've got the capability for one reason or the other. A classic example of this situation is many years ago, I'm going to give this scenario to you. There was a football manager who I was listening to, I was watching TV, it was a press conference, there was a football manager, and he was talking about how he wasn't cut out for that level. Now this guy had played 500 times for the best teams in England in the Premiership, he'd played 70 times for his country, he'd won European Football of the Year twice, he had qualifications, he was charismatic, enigmatic, he was really well looked up to, he had a degree of success. He said he wasn't cut out for that level. So that's a belief. If you don't believe you're capable of doing something, then how's anybody else going to believe in you? Okay, that was Kevin Keegan, by the way. If you cast your mind back to the last game England played at the old Wembley, he said at that press conference, I'm just not cut out for this level. I'm not saying that, you know, that's the only reason he didn't succeed, yet I truly believe if you don't believe in yourself, will anybody else believe in you? And that's what's really important. Believe in yourself. And look at the other scenario. You've got another guy who was a translator, was never a professional footballer, he worked as a translator, he studied sports science, I believe, or sports psychology, he worked as a translator for a club, and he worked his way up. At a press conference, they're not as good credentials as the first person, are they? When you think about it, the credentials of the guy I'm talking about now aren't probably anywhere near as good as the first person's credentials. And this is what I mean by competence. You've got to decide when you're ready. And sometimes you've got to, you know, step off the cliff and fly, as they say. The second person I'm talking about, at a press conference, when he first went to Chelsea, had the audacity to call himself the special one. Jose Mourinho, the most successful modern-day manager in football. And people say, you know, Jose Mourinho has a lot of money to spend at football clubs he's been at. Yes, he has. But to get to where he is, in an industry that's very, very cutthroat, very challenging, he had to have a high degree of self-belief. And what's more, everyone's driving in the car, listening to the radio, and one of the players for his team, Frank Lampard, was talking about Mourinho coming back to Chelsea, and the broadcaster says to Lampard, what is it about Mourinho that makes him so special? And Lampard says, I can't really put my finger on it. I'm not really quite sure what it is that he does to get the best out of us. Tactically, yeah, there's other managers that tactically as good as. Technically, pretty much, you know, other managers as good as that. Then he says, belief. He has a high degree of self-belief in you, and that belief he has in you gives you an extra 10%. Powerful stuff. As a coach, as a teacher, as a parent, if you believe in your kids and you pass that on to them, as a coach, you believe in your clients, as a teacher, you believe in your students, it will go a long way to them flourishing and nourishing and being nurtured in an environment. What you believe to be true is reality. If you believe you're the best thing in the world, and I'm not saying that, go out there and call yourself the special one, you can do that if you want to, but it makes a massive difference if you believe in what you're all about. Remember, beliefs are just generalizations. Are generalizations good or are they bad? What are your thoughts? Are generalizations good or are they bad? Well, generalizations can be a bad thing to a certain degree, but they can be a good thing as well. If we didn't generalize, then we'd have to relearn pretty much everything that we do. Think about it. Every time you get up in the morning and drive a car, you generalize you can drive the car. If you didn't generalize, you have to learn to drive the car every day. Every time you make tea, or you make a cup of tea or a coffee, you generalize you can do it. Otherwise, you have to relearn that. So, in a way, it's a good thing, a generalization, but it can also be a negative thing as well. Because if that generalization becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, and you start thinking that all men are bastards, and all women are this, and I'm never going to do this, and I can't do that, and I should be able to do this, and that's not for me, I don't deserve this, and all these things that people come up with, these limiting beliefs, then you're going to live a life less than you should have. And the key is sometimes to challenge these beliefs. Now, I'm going to get on this process now, because we don't have all evening. And I'm going to get on this process. But you're wondering, can we start the process, please, Jim? We sure can. I'm going to guide you through a powerful process now, a very powerful process to overcome limiting beliefs. Okay, so get your pen, get your paper, and play ball. If you don't play ball, you sit back with your cup of coffee, listen to what I've got to say, then I'm sure you'll learn something, but how much will you take away is probably bare minimal. If you get your pen, you get your paper, and you participate in the activities, then you're going to learn a much higher percentage of what I'm going to go through. And these strategies are strategies that I've used with some of the best and biggest high flyers in sports and in business to help them get the very best out of themselves. And these are strategies that work very powerfully to help people achieve their goal, to smash the limiting belief. So if you want to smash the limiting belief and live a life that you're entitled to have, and it's your birthright to be happy, it's your birthright to live a life you want. If you want to send a message out to the universe, because you're entitled to have anything that you want to have, you should be able to live a life that you want to have, you should be able to have the job that you want, you should be able to live your passion, you should be able to find a partner that you're happy with, you should be able to have a life that you want. It's your right to have that. Play ball, get a pen and get a paper. The first step of the process is decide what you want. What do you want? What is the outcome? Let's isolate the outcome. What is it that you want? Okay, is it a relationship? Is it a new job? Is it a promotion at work? Is it the ability to play a certain sport? Is it to play professional sport? But you've got to be very clear. Clarity is power. What I always say to people, if a 5-year-old could not understand what you're saying, it is too complex. The subconscious mind cannot process negative instruction. If I said I don't think of a blue giraffe, you're going to focus on what I said not to focus on. Be very specific about what you want. And the reason for doing that is, how do you know what the limiting belief is if you don't know what you want? What outcome you want? Be outcome focused. Okay, at the start of the seminar I said, I had outcomes for delivering the seminar for you. I want to create an awareness of what these beliefs are and understanding to help you change and to help your clients change as well. I was going to give you a process to go away and to put into effect. So decide what is it you want as an outcome. Really important that you do that as step one. Really powerful thing. So once you've got your outcome, whatever it is, write your outcome down. That's step one. Then the next step that I want you to do is to get some leverage. Okay, because sometimes the belief can become a part of who you are. I mentioned earlier that identity, how we define who we are, impacts our behaviour. See, if I believe I'm stupid, then I'm going to behave accordingly. If I believe I'm worthless, I'm going to sabotage my relationships. If I believe I'm not good at doing IT, then I'm going to pass the buck. If I believe I can't play sport to a certain level, then I'm going to find enough excuses to do that. What's really important here is to decide, do you want to change? Does it serve you? Is that belief serving you? And I ask you that question because some people, the belief works for them at an unconscious level. What is that belief giving you? Decide, what is that belief giving you? And the one thing I ask people is, ask yourself the question, is this belief enhancing my life? And you might think, don't be so stupid, Jim. Of course the belief isn't enhancing my life. What I mean is, are you getting secondary gain? from the belief. And what I mean by that, sometimes certain people, they'll keep beliefs subconsciously because they enjoy the pity they get from telling people that they failed relationships. You know, they enjoy telling people their sad story, their sob story. Ever come across the sort of person that always talks about their sob story? They never change the record. It's always the same CV. It's always the same story. This person did this to me, this person did that, this other person did the other thing. They get gratification from the actual story they tell. So if it's become a part of your identity and you get gratification from your belief, then you're going to have a job in shifting it, because you've probably had it for a very, very long time. And you've got to decide, do I want to change? Ask yourself this question: is this belief enhancing my life? Is it working for you? If I want to be in a relationship, consciously and unconsciously, I want what a relationship brings, the emotion involved in the relationship. I want to start a business, whatever you want to do in your life. If you can associate to it emotionally, you want it, and the belief is getting in your way and not enhancing your life, then I say it's time to change. Okay? And put the sad story away. Because I work with many, many people who've got their sad story. They love their story. And if you do nothing else, and you take nothing else from this seminar, if you have any issue in your life, the more you talk about it, the more you're going to bring it to reality. I always tell people I work with, from a therapeutic point of view, don't talk about your problem, which is a negative way of putting it, but that's one way of putting it to help you understand what I'm referring to. Talk about what you want, and go in the direction that you want to go. A lot of people focus too much on the problem rather than the solution. My philosophy as a coach is focus 10% on the problem, identify the problem, then focus on the solution. So identify the problem, and now focus on the solution. If you're getting secondary gain from having the belief, then you might want to think carefully if that is enhancing your life. That's the second part of the process. The third part of the process is desire. Do you want to change? Do you want to change? And that's the most powerful thing you can do. And one of the things I do with my clients to help them decide whether they want to change is get them to think about the pain the belief is causing them and what they're missing out on. Motivation, carrot and stick, pain, pleasure. Think about it. The pain this belief is causing you and the pleasure it's preventing you from having. And what I do to do this as a simple process, think about the negative consequences of keeping the belief. Write down the negative consequences of keeping this belief, short-term and long-term. Say, for example, the belief you don't think you're worth being in a relationship. Okay, what are the negative consequences short-term of having that belief, of keeping that belief? So it's going to prevent you from finding someone you want to be with. It's going to prevent you from doing all the things that you could do in a relationship. The negative consequences of keeping that belief. Well, it could be starting a business, and you don't believe you can start a business. What are the negative consequences of keeping that belief? Well, 5, 6 years down the line, you might live a life of regrets and think, what could have been? Time is of the essence. Think about the negatives. The scenario that I mentioned earlier, that woman who said men are bastards, I said, what are the negative consequences of keeping that belief? I said, what are the negatives of you keeping that belief that all men are bastards? And she said, you know what? If I keep that belief, the negative consequences, I'm going to stay as I am. And I'm not enjoying going to these men are bastards nights, and I'm not enjoying being on my own, and this doesn't sit well with me. Explore the emotion around that belief is one of the most powerful ways inside the belief is worth keeping and not keeping. Sometimes the emotions will tell you what is right or wrong. And sometimes it's worth exploring how you feel emotionally about a certain belief. If you feel good about the belief, then it might be something that you're not ready to change or don't want to change. Because I mentioned earlier about secondary gain. If for whatever reason you believe that you're not worth being in a relationship, it could be a subconscious mechanism to protect you from rejection you might have had in the past. So your subconscious mind doesn't understand positives and negatives. It's there to serve you. Okay? So think about negative consequences of keeping the belief, and think of the positives of letting go. What are the positive consequences of letting go of the belief? Think of the life that you could have. Think of the life that you could have by letting go of the belief. Let's say, for example, the men are bastards situation. She lets go of that belief, she can find someone, the emotion attached to finding someone that is compatible to her, she can go on holidays, country walks, share intimacy, do all the things you can do in a relationship that is working for you. Now, it doesn't just extend to relationships, it could be any area of your life. It could be business, starting a business, it could be getting into professional sport, any area of your life, think about the positive consequence of letting go. Now write that down. Write that down now. Okay, get your pen, get your paper, and write down negative consequences of keeping this belief. The pain it's going to cause you by keeping this belief. Write at least one thing down. One thing down, write down. Okay? And after you've written down one thing, one negative consequence about keeping that belief, write down one positive consequence about letting go. Just one positive consequence about letting go at belief. I'm sure you can find one and the other. And when you go away from here, if you've got time tonight, get your coffee out, sit down and reflect on that and carry on working on it. If otherwise, you can watch this again and take your time and do it when you're ready and write down an exhaustive list. Because you want to create leverage. It's a little bit like a seesaw. We want to create leverage. We want to create enough leverage to want to be able to change. If the motive isn't there, the desire is not there, then you're not going to change. Which is probably why, if you have limiting beliefs in your life at the moment, you haven't changed. Which is probably why a lot of people out there who've got these limiting beliefs in their life at the moment don't change. Because most people who've got limiting beliefs in their life, they spend more time watching these stupid soaps on TV than spend time to change their beliefs. They spend more time hanging around people who reinforce their belief than going out there and making the conscious of the change. You only live once as far as aware, and you owe it to yourself to live life to your best of your ability. So once again, get a pen and paper and write down the negative consequence of keeping this belief and the positives of letting go. It's really, really powerful stuff. Okay. Once you've done that, you decide what you prefer to believe. What belief would work for you? You've identified the belief you want to remove. So it could be that men are bastards, it could be that you don't have self-worth, it could be that you can't find a relationship, it could be this always happens to me, it could be that you're meant to be poor in your life, it could be that you're useless, worthless, hopeless, it could be all of the above. Okay? But identify that one belief, what we mentioned earlier, stopping you from getting to your outcome. Now decide what you prefer to believe. What do you want to believe? What belief would work for you is very powerful stuff. What belief would work for you? Now in the case of that woman I told you earlier, who said all men are bastards, I said, what do you prefer to believe? She says, I prefer to believe that men are pretty similar to what her dad and her brother are like. They're kind, they're caring, there's plenty of men out there. Of course there's people out there that, they aren't compatible to who we are and what we want, but there are people out there. There has to be someone out there that's compatible to you. And she wanted to believe that it's possible for her to be in a relationship. And she told me a set of beliefs that she wanted. She wanted to believe that there are men out there that were kind and caring, there were men out there that respect. And I said to her, you know what? It's your choice. It's your choice because you create your reality. And what I mean by that is what you believe to be true is true. To give you an example, you could be the most beautiful person in the world, physically and internally, and you could believe that you're ugly. Now, you might get 100 compliments in a week, people telling you you look nice, you're a nice person, you're a good person inside and out. Then one negative comment, and it could be about your shoes or the top you're wearing, and you delete all the positives and stew on that negative. So we've got to be clear that we want to believe. What do you want to believe? I am, I can, I must, I will, I am. And you are great at what you do. To get to where you are in life today, you must be doing something right. And a lot of areas in your life, no doubt, that you have been and are successful. But like all of us in the world that we live in, we are never perfect. We are never the finished product. We never can be. True perfection is imperfection. We must appreciate and embrace that. But that doesn't mean we can't constantly never improve our life. But write down a belief that you prefer to have that will support your outcome. So if it's getting to a relationship, believing that you have a higher sense of self-worth, believing you have something to offer somebody else, or lots to offer somebody else. If it's starting a business or it's about money, believing it's your entitlement to be wealthy. It's your entitlement to be happy. But deciding what you prefer to believe and deciding on a belief that will support your outcome is pretty powerful stuff. So write that down, please. And what I want you to do now is think about the belief that you originally mentioned, the one that's the biggest hurdle in you getting from where you are to where you want to be. Remember that hurdle we talked about before? The beliefs that you talked about? that is a hurdle from getting from A to B, think about that for one moment. I want to create dissonance and doubts. Now think about it. You've had beliefs from pretty much day one. From the moment you're born, you're impressionable, you pick up all these things subconsciously, and these beliefs work at a subconscious level. Over a period of time, you've come in and out of beliefs. You don't believe everything that you've always believed. Some beliefs you've had for a lifetime, there's some beliefs that have changed in due course. Now, there's a point with any belief when you begin to doubt that generalization. We create dissonance. You know, you might have believed in Father Christmas at one time in your life, then you see your dad walking in with a Father Christmas suit and you doubted that Father Christmas is real. Sorry just for anybody's fun there, but there's doubt there, okay? And sometimes this works in a positive way, not that that might not be a positive way. You might have had this belief that you could never drive a car. Then you start doubting that limiting belief and you think, well, actually, you know what? I can change gears. I can ride a bike. So maybe I might be able to do that. So creating dissonance. You might have once doubted your self-worth in a relationship, yet you decide, actually, you know what? Someone gave you some priceless advice and said, you know what? You are a nice person. You are a special person. You start doubting the negativity. You might have, believed that you're always going to be poor. Then you do a business idea and it does really, really well. You start generating money and you start to doubt that you're going to be poor all the time. There's a moment where we create dissonance. So I want to create dissonance in your original negative belief. Doubt it. Find one thing that you can doubt about that belief. Okay? Find one thing that you can doubt. Remember, it's the belief that is serving as a hurdle for you to get from A to B, from where you are to where you want to be. I want you to doubt that belief. Or find one thing you can doubt about the belief. So if you want to go in a relationship, I want you to doubt the belief that's preventing you from going to a relationship. If you want to start a business, doubt that belief that you have. Doubt that structure of reality, what's become your reality in that area and is acting as a hurdle. Doubt one thing. And when you create that cognitive dissonance, that's where, to use an analogy, we can start collapsing the belief. And that's how this pretty much can work, for and against. It can work with a positive belief. You might have once thought that you were really good at driving. Then you had an accident and you believed otherwise. You might have thought that you were very good at taking penalties in football. And you missed the penalty and you started doubting yourself. You might think you were fantastic in a relationship. Then you had a couple of failed relationships or a failed marriage, you doubted yourself. So it works on that level, but it can also work on the flip side too, on a negative belief. When I say a negative belief, you might have once thought that you weren't capable of driving, and you started doubting that because you could, drive down the street successfully. You thought, well, actually, you know what? Maybe I can. So doubting it, creating some dissonance, is a very powerful process, because once you put that seed out there and create a level of doubt, it starts collapsing the framework that holds that belief. And when you think about it, a belief is just subjective experience. It's just your reality. It's what you believe through a series of experiences in your own life, from the people who've been around you and your subjective experience in life. Beliefs are very subjective, albeit sometimes they can be passed on. A lot of times they're passed on from one person to the other without even realizing it. The next step is to believe. Believe you can do it. What truly amazes me when I work with clients, to give you an idea, I was working with a client a few months ago and he said that he struggled to deliver presentations. He said that he felt he didn't think he could deliver presentations. He didn't think he had the ability to deliver a presentation, which is pretty amazing when you think about it, because this guy here had overcome a very, very serious illness. He had a very serious illness and he was doubting that he could do a presentation. And it's amazing sometimes, what I'm referring to here, think about the things that you've overcome in the past. Now come on, think about it. What is something that you've overcome in the past? Surely in your life, to get to where you are today, in your own life, you've had, like everybody out there, many trials and tribulations. You've overcome things that are bigger than the hurdles that are in the way of you getting from where you are to where you want to be. I'm sure you've probably overcome injury, illnesses, being made redundant at work, partner walking out on you and finding a new partner. We've all had events that have happened in our life. I've had my fair share, and I'm sure you have as well. And we've all had to do with the bounce back. The guy that I was working with, I said to him, you know what? If you can bounce back from that serious illness, then think about the presentation in the grand scheme of things. Think of the big picture, because we don't think about the big picture often enough. And you know what? At that point there, he started to believe and said, you know what, actually, you're right. I'm doing myself a disservice. If I can do that, I can pretty much do everything. And it's ironic really, because what he wants to present is how we overcome this serious illness. And I said, you know, think about the people who are not going to hear what you've got to say. Think about the lives you could change by getting out there and communicating with people and telling people your story. And that's pretty much all you need to do. And that altered his whole perspective. He started to believe that he could do it. Now, all of us to do now is to start believing. And the way to start believing you can do anything is to think about things that you've overcome in the past. Write one thing down. Write one thing down that you've overcome in the past. Just one obstacle that you or served you as a limiting belief that you overcame. It could be doing your driving test. It could be overcoming a serious illness. It could be passing university. It could be getting that job. But write down a limiting belief that you've overcome in the past. Now, I want you to start to believe that this belief is possible. And I want you to write down one reason why it's possible. Write down one reason why it's possible. So it could be, for example, when I work with athletes and they're trying to improve their athletic ability, it could be that, let's say they want to improve their time over a 100-metre sprint. They want to get a certain time on a 100-metre sprint. It could be that we break it down and chunk it down to 20-metre sprint, and they get a certain time over 20 metres. You say, well, actually, you can get that time for 20 metres, then you can get that time for 50 metres. You can quantify things, and we've got a good chance of getting that for 100. So what I'm saying you can do here is actually, you know what? Start to think about your positives, you know, and also write down some of your strengths. Write down something that you're good at, things that you're good at doing. Write down some of the things that you're good at, and praise yourself. When's the last time you praised yourself for doing something really, really well? So at this point here, I want you to start to believe and write down one reason why you should believe you can do it, or you will believe you can do it. One reason why you can adopt that new belief. Just one reason. I remember when I struggled with my own belief system, when I was embarking in a career in sport, and I wrote down a list of reasons why I could do it. And I wrote and wrote and wrote, and I built a level of confidence so hard, because I then realized I can do it. Of course I can do it. I can do anything I choose to do, and so can you, and so can anybody. But write down one reason why you will believe you can adopt a new belief, whatever that might be. Now, what I want you to do now, which is pretty symbolic, and this is what I do with my clients, I get to write down their negative belief, and it's time to let go. So get your pen and get your paper and write down all the negative beliefs that don't serve you now. Write them down, whatever they are. I can't do this. I'm not worth this. I don't deserve that. Whatever the belief is that is working as an obstacle from you getting from where you are to where you want to be, write it down and rip it up. Get rid of it. Give it a rip it up and throw it. Get rid of it. Okay, send it back to whoever gave it to you. It's not you. It's not part of your identity. Let it go. Rip it up and send it back to the person who gave it to you, or put it away and lock it up in a metaphorical museum where you've once had all these other negative beliefs. I'm sure over a period of a lifetime you've had certain negative beliefs that haven't worked for you no more, and you've pushed them to one side. I'm sure to get to where you are in life, you've had various negative beliefs in your life, and you've managed to lock them up and throw away the key. Now get this belief and rip it up, or scrumble it up and lock it up, or put it in the bin. Let it go. It's time to let go of this belief. It's caused you, like we mentioned earlier, enough pain in your life as it is already. Now it's time to get rid of it. Write it down and let it go and be done with it. And never talk about it again. Never give airtime again. You wouldn't watch a bad film over and over again. You wouldn't listen to a bad song over and over again. And if anybody asks you about your belief is reinforced in the past, don't mention it. Say, you know what, I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about the new me, the new belief, who I want to be. A bit like the woman I mentioned earlier in the session. It went from men are bastards to that belief that she had this sense of self-worth. There were good men out there. She could attract a man compatible to her. There's more to men than just the physical attraction. There's the internal thing about a relationship as well too. Okay, things that are really important. And she got done with that. And she thought the new belief, or a new series of beliefs that would reinforce her new reality. And by doing that, you send the frequency out to the universe, and you start attracting things in your reality, and that might be a little bit far-fetched to you at this point in the process, but as human beings, we do work on vibration, a little bit like a radio, tuning a radio in. Think about it. Do you ever go into a conversation with someone who's very negative and they just drain your energy, and you walk away feeling down for no reason or the other, or even just sitting in someone's presence, and sometimes you can sit in someone else's presence and you feel uplifted and upbeat. Okay, so our emotions send out a frequency. Now, what we want to do is send out a positive frequency. Be done with the old belief. Rip it up. And think about the emotion you'd like to experience with the new belief and associate it. Associate the emotion attached to the new belief. What's it like? What do you see? What do you hear? What do you feel? What's it feel like to have that new belief emotionally? Where are the feelings? Let them spread everywhere. What's it feel like to be amazing, to be special, to be who you want to be? And put that new video on, put that new record on, and put that old belief away, which is really important you do that. Step 8, what I want you to do now is run your new story. I want you to be in a position where you're beyond belief. Look at the process we've covered from the touch point of view, and look how far you've come in a very short space of time, and decide, you know what, I'm going to take the ball and I'm going to run, and I'm going to make it happen. This is where you think beyond belief. This is where you've been in the past, where you've once doubted yourself, and you've decided, you know what, the sort of belief you probably had in your life years ago, and you look back and laugh. Laugh at this belief that you've had as an obstacle for you to get from A to B. Look at it and laugh at it. Collapse it. Get rid of it. Beyond belief. Just like the belief you might have had years ago that you couldn't do this, you couldn't do that, now you can do it easy enough. This belief here, look at it from a point of view that, you know what, this has cost me enough as it is already anyway, and laugh at it. Because now, and from here on after, you're going to adopt a new belief system. The new belief system is going to embed itself in your unconscious mind, and it's going to be your new reality. As of now, you're going to create a new reality. And this new belief system is going to become a part of who you are, and you're going to go out there and you're going to stay focused and live naturally and let this belief flourish and take you where you want to go. And when we do this process, the first thing that normally happens to the clients I work with, we've done this process, they go away and they meet someone calls them on the phone or whatever. There's always a challenge, or they get a rejection, they might want to find a partner, and they get rejected, a bit like that woman I just mentioned before, the men are bastards, and she built her self-esteem right up. She had full of confidence, she believed that she was sense of self-worth. The first thing she did, beyond her belief that she had a strong sense of self-worth, she went on a date and the person didn't bother to get back in touch anymore, although she liked this person, and it could have been easy enough for her to drop and go back to who she was before, because that's who she'd been for a very long time, but she didn't. She didn't because she knew that this new belief served her in terms of where she wanted to be. And you know what? I always say to people, be the very best you can be. And that's one of the most important things in life. People come and go in your life, you try and please everyone, you end up pleasing nobody. The one thing we can't control is ourselves, and we can sort of carry on being the best that we can be. And in life, there's some people that are going to like what we do, some people won't like what we do, we're going to make friends, we're going to lose friends, we're going to meet people, we're going to get jobs, we're going to get made redundant, we're going to do new jobs, meet partners. Life is full of challenges. But the one thing that we can do is have faith. Have faith that everything will always be alright in the end. Just like I'm sure it always has done. It always will do. So look at things from a position now where you can laugh at the old belief and connect emotionally to that new belief, the person you want to be. Okay? And finally, think of 3 scenarios from now onwards where you're going to adopt this new belief and the impact it will have on your life. So think about it. Think of 3 scenarios. So collapsing a negative belief about being in a relationship, think about 3 scenarios. Think about the way you'll behave now with your new belief when you meet someone, if a relationship has been a problem in the past. How will you behave now? How will you be like now that you've got a strong sense of self-worth? How will you behave at a job interview when you believe it's your right to get the job? How will you behave now about money when you realise that you're entitled to have money, you're entitled to do well? How will you believe now when you're entitled to have a relationship you deserve? How will you believe differently? Think of 3 scenarios. It might be a relationship, it might be you going on a date, it might be you meeting up with someone, it might, reconciling a relationship in the past. Who knows? It's entirely up to you. But think of how you'll react differently. Think about the things that you could do, the course of action you'll take. It could be you go away and start a business. It could be that you apply for that promotion at work. Think of 3 scenarios to embed this in your unconscious mind. And write them down, please. Write down 3 scenarios where you will behave differently as a result of this new belief. And embed it in your unconscious mind. Write down 3 scenarios. If you're struggling to find 3 scenarios, write at least 1 scenario down. When I remember I was embarking on a career in sports, and I did this process, and at the end of the process, I did the process a little bit different than we're doing tonight, yet the same principles apply, but I remember having done this process, at the end really, what was one of those powerful things for me, is where I used to walk around. When I used to go to meetings as an athlete, I'd walk like this, slumped down, like I didn't belong. Well, maybe not like that, maybe that's exaggerated, but I'd have my shoulders down, and I'd have my head down, look on the floor, I'd be like, literally scared, like that, When I changed my belief, I put my back straight, my shoulders back, my head up. And I said, you know what, I'm going to go out there and perform to the very best of my ability, and I'm going to enjoy myself, and I believe I can do it, I believe I can add value to people's lives, and I believe that I can make a big impact in the world. I'm going to go and make it. Behaviour changed dramatically, okay, just by adopting a new belief system. And yes, I wasn't always successful in sport, I had plenty of knockbacks, but one thing I realised, that by believing in myself, I gave myself a better chance of succeeding. And you owe yourself the best possible chance of succeeding. And that's one of the most powerful things of believing. I'm not saying by believing in yourself, all things are going to work out like a bed of roses and things will be happily ever after. But what I am saying, you will give yourself a better chance of succeeding. And also, what's really important is measure your progress. What you could do as well, and you can do the process again, you can watch it again, it'll be available as recorded. Grade the intensity, the severity of your belief, from 1 to 10, with 10 being high, and see if you can bring it right down. Sometimes certain people aren't ready to get rid of belief completely. For one reason or another, they keep it, because it might serve them subconsciously to a point. But measure your progress and give yourself a pat on the back. If you can bring the belief down from an 8 out of 10 to a 2 out of 10, it's progress. The likelihood is your clients and yourself have this belief for many, many years. Now, to expect to change things in 30 minutes is a belief in itself. It's possible and plausible because beliefs can change pretty quickly. Yet, in saying that, sometimes, for one reason or the other, measure progress. Okay? Don't beat yourself up. Sometimes we're our own worst enemy. What's really important is that don't beat yourself up. If you go away from here, you do the process, and you find you still have some lingering negative belief, if that's the case, explore the emotion around the negative belief. Ask yourself subconsciously, is this belief serving me? How come I have this belief? What is this belief bringing me? And also decide on the pain the belief is causing you and the pleasure is preventing you from happening. Just examine the belief and create an awareness around the belief. But don't beat yourself up, because sometimes we're our own worst enemy. And I truly believe, in all the experience I've had, I've worked with many, many people for many, many years, sometimes we're our own worst enemy. The way we communicate ourselves, we communicate the same way to ourselves, we communicate to other people we have no friends. The way you communicate with yourself, and I've been there myself, I do it myself sometimes, there's certain things we say to ourselves, if we said it to anybody else, we'd be completely on our own. So sometimes, changing our self-talk can be a powerful start. Now, affirmations can be pretty powerful, but affirmations are only work if they're true. So there's no point telling yourself or trying to kid yourself, and say to yourself, I'm great, I'm great, I'm great, I'm the best thing in the world, if you don't actually believe that it is true. That's why this following exercise is really, really powerful. It gets you to dig deep into your subconscious mind. It gets you to think and explore very powerfully about what's holding you back, what you want, and how you can go about getting it, and how you can collapse that negative belief. You can do this process. It's not, not exhaustive. Because often as you want, you can take down as many beliefs as you want. It's a tool in a toolkit, and that's the key. And if you do nothing else, as a coach, as a parent, think about it. If you've got kids, I've got kids, I want the best for their life. I'm sure you want the best for your children's lives. Share this with them. Because I'm sure your children will come across a lot of negativity in the world that we live in. Look at the news. You turn on the news, there's all this negative rubbish. You watch these shows, they're all very negative. They go to school, they get negative things off people in school, be it friends or teachers even for that matter. And you want to give them a tool. You want to give them a tool to work with. It's a priceless tool that will help you achieve the quality of life that you're entitled to. A very powerful process that you can use. Really, really powerful stuff. If you manage to do the process, give yourself a big pat on the back. If you haven't, then go away and do it and have a go. This DVD will be available on the Ustream and it'll be uploaded to YouTube, so you can fast forward and go through as often as you feel necessary. But I really want to thank you once again for coming along and tuning in, wherever you are in the world, whatever you're doing. I want to thank you for tuning in. I've really enjoyed delivering the seminar and I sincerely wish you all the best. Do feel free to email us on our email at info@excelnlp.com. That's info@excelwithnlp.com. Any questions, comments, or otherwise, or you want a handout on some of the stuff that we covered tonight, or you want to share some success stories. In my experience of working with many, many people across a broad range of areas, some of the most powerful success stories that I've had are phenomenal. Sports people, business people. There's nothing more gratifying professionally than getting an email from someone saying to me, or a text, I've just made that professional sports team, I've just got that new contract in sport, I've just got that promotion, I've just got into a new relationship, my life has improved beyond belief by doing the